Thank you. All right, we'll go into committee business. Discussion of possible action on the following. 6.1 innovation webinar from 10/21. Recap.
So Tim Papanda reached out to me and made me aware of the webinar that was available on 10/21/25. If everybody would like to get a brief overview of what it was about. It was pretty dry. It's got a lot of interesting things that they covered, but the biggest takeaway that I would say is whatever we put together in structure, we want to show a long-term plan that it's something sustainable, and it's going to be most likely that we'll have an advantage to this money. The takeaway that I was kind of hearing from it is that they didn't want to see basically taking money for 3 years and then all of a sudden it all fall apart. So I think the better program that we put together, and I think with the road consortium, Pete and I did have which we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I think we're really getting off the ground and going to go somewhere with it. But the big takeaway, I got a brief overview. It was pretty dry. I didn't, maybe Jay, you were made available to the after meeting that was cut off because I didn't get to see the live version. I had to watch the webinar, and then I guess there was a roundtable discussion afterwards.
There were questions and answers of the DOR staff and league staff after. I don't know that there was anything novel other than was discussed earlier.
Okay. So I do have a handout that's just there wasn't really a whole lot in there that I think is going to be beneficial necessarily to us. Initially, especially with what we're doing. So when we get to talking about I think that's coming up here next, we'll get into talking about the road consortium more in detail. You should be in it. Okay, what tribe is that? But the big takeaway too is they want to give this money. They really do. They're literally taking most of the thing. They don't even care to save money. I mean, it almost is, it used to be they get approved at the same 10%. They take that provision out. So they really, really do want to give money. So the faster that we can put something together.
Okay. Jay, did you want to add anything to that?
I think that's a solid summary. I think maybe highlighting the purpose. So Brian's second paragraph, purpose and funding. The purpose supports transfers or consolidation of services or duties among, and then it lists the entities, but so just know that it's regarding services and duties, but not infrastructure buildings. So
it's like a trash.
Right.
Just a quick question as I read through here. The annual payment formula, it says annual grant payment equals 25% of total cost. Does that mean the money that we would receive would be equivalent to, let's say we want 100 grand for something, they would be giving us 25 grand, or they would be giving us the full 100 grand for something, or am I misreading that?
Yeah, I can't even speak, but maybe you can, because what we're doing with hopefully these other community in the webinar, they spent a little more time on municipality type related stuff, not as much on fractions. Maybe Jake and
let's use a hypothetical example that probably won't happen. So the village currently funds the library at 600,000. I'll use round numbers for simple math. It's just shy of that, but the village spends $600,000 in 2025 on library services, and then contractually enters into a new, currently we're part of the community library system, right? And so let's say that there's a countywide library system that's formed, and it means the Kenosha County and the city of Kenosha and this library all combined. There's a new entity created. The village of Salem Lakes would qualify for 25% of that 600,000. So the amount that you spent in the year prior to applying, and then you applied in 26 to be in by the March date, you'd be eligible for, it says up to, but you'd be eligible for 25%. So 150,000 of the 600 grand for the next 5 years. So you theoretically could receive that grant for 5 years.
And if I understand you correctly, then anything we were to come up with as a result of trying to use this grant, it would not be a 100% funding through the grant. It would always be 25% of whatever that cost of that new innovative concept is.
Yeah, and it's 25% of what you're currently paying. So think that too, a service that you're currently providing and paying for, writing a check for now. If you were to enter into a new agreement with an existing entity or create the creation of a new entity, you'd be eligible for 25% of that cost, that existing cost, 5 years for 5 years running.
And do you think that 25% goes, whether that's consolidating or whether it's something you already have going or it's a brand new concept?
I don't think the brand new concept counts unless you can show that you're spending X on it now. So that you'd have to be creative in how you did that. And again, I'm willing to sit down with you guys sometime if you want to chat together.
The only other thought that I had on that was just curious, if we're talking about this potential grant money, there's been some thoughts that I've had that I've shared with you about a potential permit holiday to stimulate growth. Even and from an innovation aspect, we do pay for our review through another entity. Does that, in rough definition, sound like a maybe or no?
That would be no. If you transferred your permit services from the county to another entity, I don't know what that would be, but then you'd qualify for that 25% of what you're paying now.
Testing. So this is current library situation. They're going to create a new overlay and then they can possibly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, what you do on this, that here. Public safety, law enforcement, I know, turn my mic in. There was talk during the budget about the board wanting another officer. Would that be included? Something like that?
Well, we're actually possibly getting together with I don't know if we're really getting together with the grade school or how to really look at that. But if that's one way to look at it, where the officer is going to be split for that third shift concept, maybe there's something there.
Or the communities, just if their officers are out in the western Kenosha.
My understanding of the rules is you could qualify for police services here because you currently contract to the county for those services. But the only way you'd qualify, in my opinion, is if you struck a new deal with, I'll just say Twin Lakes, because I know they have a police department. So if you contracted with Twin Lakes and ended I know it might not be realistic, but you ended your contract with the sheriff's department, you could qualify for 25% of what you're paying now in a grant for the next 5 years to be used to offset your example for Twin Lakes. Peter, I think the only way that the school district relationship would work is if you actually contracted with them to provide the service. There might be a creative way to do that. I haven't thought through that.
Sure. Thank you.
And I did get the feeling that if you get a little too creative, that you might not get to. So the more substance that you can put. So we talked about the moment sort of why that when we're talking about big how that can be structured.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so with that, we'll go into the assignment updates. These don't have to necessarily be in order, but we have Sharon with Grant Opportunities, Pete and Brian with the Public Works Consortium, and Jeff and Ross with the EDC Makeup and Operations and Creation of the EDC Master Plan. So I don't know who wants to go first.
I'll actually go first because I was supposed to give an update on this grant. So we are
Perfect.
complete. We're complete.
Go ahead.
I have nothing else to add. I mean, really, they've covered everything. And if you sat in that webinar, you learned more than I did on it. But I mean, it seemed like even to think of it along the lines of, let's say you had, I'm gonna make something up, like it's an IT position. You don't need a full-time IT position, but you could share that service with another community. That kind of thing is where I'm seeing this could fall in like really easy. Does that sound about right, Jay?
As a service that is paid for if it were contracted in a different way or merged with another community.
Yeah, so my thoughts around it would be like if there's something we have full-time staff for, but maybe don't quite need full-time, that's where you could kind of combine with other communities and make that happen. And then the road part as well. But yeah, almost like a new entity has to be formed in order to get those grant dollars.
So, and one thought that I had, I don't know how, if there's a savings here, like if we were to form a buyers club with other communities and like order our salt all together, could we get to another price point for salt and things like that? Like, I don't know if that could be it, but in your experience, Jay, is some kind of like a larger purchasing power across multiple communities, creating a group deal, maybe?
That in place already with state contract. It's anything's possible, Pete, if there's a creative way, but think service versus tangible item. So salt, in my opinion, would be a physical tangible item and not necessarily I understand where you're going, like a purchase power, but the end product is a product versus a service that the village currently provides.
Okay. So, and that's the focus of the grant is the service side.
So applying the salt might be a service if that's part of where you're going with road consortium, but the actual physical salt, I think, would be more of a reach.
And it's only when combining with other communities. Like, for example, I'm not so sure we do a lot of the latest and greatest when it comes to taking care of our roads. There might be a lot of room for innovation that's already been tried and tested. So like if we were strictly in-house to say, hey, we're going to bring on beet juice and we're going to do spray bars and that, and maybe us inside of ourselves being money saving and more innovative in-house, it's not what this is structured on. It's about bringing communities together.
That's my understanding.
Okay.
Did they give any examples of projects that have been funded in the webinar?
Well, there were questions and speculation as to who might apply, but to date, there's only been one application in the entire state for the fund. So
they are truly trying to make this loose.
yeah, they're actively receiving applications.
I think they want to get rid of the money, so it's definitely something we got to get motivated.
Okay. Great. All right, well then, I guess Pete and Brian, go ahead with your.
You want to start, Pete?
Sure. We did a little meeting here last week, and just to have a kind of a kickoff and discuss what potential possibilities there might be, and kind of discussed what might it look like when I say meeting that was with Pat Ackley, Tim Papanda, and Alex. What's that? Alex's Leo. And basically threw out the idea concept of, hey, what could a road consortium look like between communities? And we did kind of talk about, do we kind of create a buyer's club, if you will, when it comes to like paving projects as a start versus going right into like hiring employees and trying to, buy equipment and make all this stuff kind of happen. And so we thought maybe from a phased aspect, but now hearing from Jay, maybe that won't work, but I guess we really need to look closer to see what some of those things could be tweaked to possibly make happen. What's your take on that?
So my take's on slightly different on so the road consortium. So I met with Tim and Alex, and then I had 3 or 4 additional meetings with Tim we have reached out to several other communities and the response has been very positive. Everybody is very interested in getting together and kind of what we think the best way to structure this out of the gate in order to be able to take advantage of the innovation grant would be to create it's not really a buyer's club, but we're going to bid out work collectively so that we will get the very best price from, let's just say it's, Joe's Paving. And I don't want to use a particular name because there'll be a lot of companies that bid it. The advantage of this is if a larger company or medium-sized company can come in and bid work for, let's say 6, 7, or 8 communities, it's going to bring the cost down substantially. We're talking anywhere from 25 to maybe as much as 40%. Where the buyer's angle is, which we don't necessarily need the grant from that, we can collectively work together to get the best price on salt and different products like that. We're also looking at automated seal coating equipment, that the new technology that's out there now, these trucks, instead of operating a crack filling with 7 to 10 people, you would use 3 people and it's all automated. So it drives down the road and it uses AI automation, robotic automation, and the person in the truck operates it, but a robot essentially does all the crack filling itself. And it's all done automatic. And then it's really, really neat technology. Stuff like that, without a doubt, the innovation grant, that would be something that we could take advantage of. The 25%, it sounds, oh, geez, 25% of $30 million is a lot of money. And you don't have to necessarily even prove that you're going to save money now, which that's worries me. I think that they're opening the floodgates because so few municipalities try to take advantage of this. So now the rules are getting much looser. So the concern is that we need to move quickly. So what we would have to do is, right now we're working on a PowerPoint presentation and a date that we can collectively get everybody together, these 7 or 8 communities, in hopes that we would also have boards come, because it's going to be very important that we can come to an agreement to at least do a study. And the study will be the first step. And that study would be covered with the grant. And that study will show the different ways that we can structure this, which will lead to the application. And the application, we're in hopes that we would be able to submit that by maybe February. And then maybe by spring, summer, get an approval. We don't know how fast that's going to take, but we feel it's very important we fast track this because we think the money is going to, I think people are going to get very creative how to get their hands on stuff. So we are working on a lot of different ways that, paving, seal coat crack filling, maintenance, and shoulder. And we're going to be the 3 areas that we're going to focus into. We're not going to necessarily be looking to create we'll say a workforce initially. We're going to use it through bidding structure to get better pricing. And then with the maintenance and crack filling, that will be something that ultimately we would like to see different communities send their people, train them so that they have the ability to operate this equipment, so they can utilize this equipment. Because it probably is going to be 2 different vehicles. They're very expensive. But if we can get money for this, it could just change the dynamics of maintenance on our roads to where we can extend the life of our roads maybe 25, 30%, which would be huge. And so what the goal would be, for every 4 miles that we pave, of those 4 miles, 1 of them will be free. That's really what the goal is. So, we're gonna pave 3 miles and we're gonna get 1 for free. So that's really what we're targeting from a cost standpoint. We've already done some preliminary talking with some of the paving outfits to see what their thoughts were, and they're excited about it, because anywhere that they can bid so much work in one place and guarantee that, they see that as a major cost cutting advantage.
Okay.
So that's kind of what we've been working on behind the scenes.
And I assume you are working with staff as well to get their input.
So we just started with trying to figure out what communities would be up for. So I guess I call
Okay.
it like the next step.
All right.
That was gonna be my question. What communities are planning on contacting?
So
Mainly
I want to be
county
careful what I
communities?
say in that regards, because I don't want to put anybody on the spot, but we have reached out to 8 communities and we only have one that has not given us a yes yet.
Okay.
So we're talking going Walworth, Fontana, Genoa City, Twin Lakes, Bristol, Paddock Lake, Salem. So, yes, I mean, we're not trying not to work with staff. We're just trying to figure out how we're going to put this together.
Right.
Get everybody into a room. Where that is, I guess we'll have to figure that out. And see who is really interested in doing it, because everybody is interested because it's one of their biggest costs. And we have to figure out how to reduce that.
Yeah, figure out how to move forward is kind of think before we.
Do we know if there's
task
any models from anywhere else in the country that's doing something like this?
We're not aware of if it's
No.
ever been done in the Midwest. Now, that doesn't mean that like Illinois, that they don't do, communities don't get together and then bid on larger projects. Essentially,
Okay.
that's what we're going to try to do is, let's say there's 8 communities that are involved in this. They're going to figure out each year, there'll have to be a board, there'll be so many people from each community, and decide, hey, what is precedence this year for our roads? So then that'll go on a list. And then that list will be compiled, and then that'll get put into a bid package, put out to several larger, the mid-sized to large paving companies, and in hopes that this will greatly reduce the cost of these paving projects.
Okay.
Brian, I had a question. The capital expenditure for the equipment is part of it. And also the materials and the labor is another part of it. Or,
So the way that the innovation grant, and Jay can correct me but what we're gonna do is collectively look, okay, last year we spent $30 million on roads. So in theory, 25% of that could be available from the grant. How you spend that money, they're not controlling that.
okay.
So you can spend it on whatever you want. The goal is after 3 years, it was 5 years, but the goal after 3 years is to have a structure that can live on. And the goal isn't just to survive 3 years and then all of a sudden like, we can't afford it anymore because we're not getting free money. And this grant, you can add to it each year by tweaking some things. So I just worry that people are going to get really creative. That's
Okay.
my worry. I hope I'm wrong, but I got the feeling listening to the webinar that they didn't have great success with giving away free money. And so we're going to make it easier. I don't know if you felt that way, but I did kind of, by them saying that you don't have to prove that you're going to save money was kind of shocking.
Of the, I think, lessering of the rules through the last biennial budget was they were also focusing on fire and EMS as a priority. And for anybody to think that fire and EMS is going to be cheaper in the future, where you can actually save cash, was kind of counterintuitive. So that I think that was in part why they took out this 10% savings.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Okay.
So I know the grant application is due on March 31st of next year. So it's only 5 months. Holidays come and go. All of a sudden it's 3. So
There is very little time.
So it would be my suggestion that for doing a lot of grant writing is to start putting your timeline in place. I know I have to have my partner secured by this date. First draft of this grant needs to be done by this date and in front of somebody for review. And we really kind of map yourself out backwards. It's kind of the only way you get to grants like that.
Correct. And so once we know we're partners, then the grant can be presented the way that we think to, be structured. We don't have to have every detail. We can apply for the grant. That's what we finalize. So, and they recommend that you apply for that sooner than later.
Without a plan.
No, you'll have a plan, but you're not going to be able to have like a bid package where you're going to know everything, all these costs.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, the goal was to have the grant done by February.
Yeah.
That's what we talked about.
Mhm.
Because we just think that, I hope I'm wrong. I'm afraid that this money is.
Usually if it's been sitting there for a while. It's,
They're starting to get a little looser.
yeah, which is good.
That's what it is. but
Yeah.
Not if you want it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I mean, that grant will close on the 31st. Nobody gets a decision made until after all those applications are in. They all get looked at, then they make their decision on that. So even if it squeaks in on the 31st, you're still gonna have as much chance. Do you think the village would want us to explore any other options on how we could use this grant?
I think that certainly it would be open to ideas and suggestions for sure. That could be presented to the village board. I also think that before you guys go too much further, though, it would really be great if you could work with staff to find out what our needs might be, so that we can kind of have that idea before going into, more talks.
Yeah, we're nowhere near negotiation.
Correct, right. No.
I don't want.
Well, no, and you couldn't do that anyways on your own, but I do think that's having some staff input to pitch your idea and kind of say, okay, well, here's where we're at, and kind of keeping them included along the way. That would be a good thing. And like Sharon said, this still would have to also go for the village board. So I do think putting a timeline together is a really good idea, just to,
I think it's very critical that the
Yeah.
village board is involved in this and
Absolutely.
attends to these meetings, because when you get to that decision making, you're going to have to, it's gonna have to be
Yeah.
a yes or no, otherwise this is not gonna move
Yep.
forward, at least with that particular community.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds like a plan. Thank you, guys.
But before we go, I do like Sharon's idea. I think you could get really creative with
Yeah.
other ways.
I mean, we're certainly, open to any ideas or suggestions. And that might be something that staff could also help with some suggestions and ideas. They're here every day. They see it. So, yeah.
Brian wants to work for a couple different communities.
Okay. All right. So that's great. Thank you. I'm going to keep these on the agendas monthly. And again, if we need to meet sooner than that because of timelines, please give a heads up as soon as you know. All right, so we will go into the EDC makeup and operations and the creation of the master plan.
Got some handouts. So, one of each. Should have one for Jay, but on the new
Oh.
one, but.
They were put together, but they're not put together.
So, we took a look at is the current, verbiage on the Economic Development Committee, and this is off of the website. But
Can you send me these files? Cause I need to keep them on file for open records requests. I didn't get a copy.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah,
Thank
or you-
Well, there,
Do you want-
I
there'll
think,
be a hard
I think the
copy.
confusion, and there's one in here that's different. Which one are we working off?
There's
Or are they?
Two.
there's
There's
two separate.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
One is the current and then one is the,
Do you, okay,
No, I did, we, well then,
can give you this.
all right, which one are we gonna work off of first?
Well, let me just do an overview. This one is the Economic Development Committee as it stands on our website. This is the totality of it. So what I did is I took a look at it and had a lot of information from previous tasks, and then I looked at other ones. And we wanted to come up with something that's maybe a little bit more inclusive that some other communities are using, and this is what this second plan is. That's this one. Now, the fact that this is in bullet points is not necessarily the way it should be. I think we put it together so that the bullet points can be, bullet point number 4, we want to work on that, and we want to change this and that. It's just easier to develop, but or maybe it'll, the committee and the staff will say, listen, we don't, we're happy with what we have. But if we can just kind of go through this, I won't read the whole thing, but the new one, we'll just do some bullet pointing here. And we've included more things on the regarding the local development investment businesses. And then there's a little bit more expansive on what the responsibility of the committee is. So if somebody's taking a look at this, perhaps a new business venture, someone who wants to get into the village and find out how enthusiastic they are about businesses coming forward. That's what this is about. We still have the stipulation that the committee may not enter into contracts or agreements on behalf of the village. And again, it is an advisory board that we have. I also, we added something on bullet point number 4 that was kind of a sticking point, and it kind of came to light with when Sharon and I were tasked with doing some things together. There was some fear that if we did too much communication, that we might be overstepping or stepping on toes. And we want to make it available so that when Rita makes ad hoc forces, subcommittees or task force, that we're able, that it's in here, that we're able to go ahead and do this without stepping on anybody's toes, and also without being in violation of the law. So that I think is a fairly important thing as it stands out here. And so that we can meet. And again, ad hoc committees or task force will be something that Rita will take a look at, make a determination, and then she can assign, and we can actually work together off site. And also then we get into the economic committee, the consistency of it, which is 5 regulars, 1 alternate. And this could change. When we come down here, I couldn't remember what the this is a 2-year or a 3-year. Do you remember, Rita?
The 3 of us that are already on boards and commissions, it's the length of your term.
Okay,
And then the
members at large.
members at large, I believe, are 2-year term.
so-
Yes, that should actually
have
be
to
in
be
here.
Cool. So I thought it was a 2-year term. Again, we go back up, bullet point, the EDC should have an early role, and we talked about this in some of our other discussions earlier, many months ago, about things are coming to fruition, and we should just be kind of aware. I think that the committee wanted to be aware of what was kind of going on, even if they're not involved initially, because the board is doing something or the planning commission is doing something. We also don't have the scheduled meeting dates. We didn't have it when that was written, so we put that in there too. The tasks are included, and that's many of what is already in there. There are a few other things. And then we also looked at, Rita wanted to look at the master plan. And I think we need some feedback on that too. I couldn't find really a good master plan out there. And so I thought that we do is concentrate on this end of it first. I'm not sure we need a master plan as we put in there. If we do, we can do the write-ups for it. But this is just kind of let's kick this off and get it going. I don't know how you want to handle it from this point, Rita, if you want
So
to go through these things now, or how do you want to?
I think that we need to get these electronically, because we have to send them to our attorney. I'm looking at a lot of these, and I do remember a lot of this is already in our ordinance for this. I can tell you that putting the regularly scheduled meetings in there, we did not put that in there as far as a certain date and time, because then that holds us to that. So we didn't want to do that for flexibility reasons. Because maybe the first Tuesday of the month don't work long term. Maybe we'd change it to, Mondays again or whatever. But I do think that if we could get this, then we could review that. Because obviously the attorney is going to have to review that just to make sure that we're good. I know at one point we also talked about adding members. I don't necessarily know that we need to do that. Which you don't have that in here, am I correct?
No, it's not.
Right. Yeah. So I guess just knowing from where we're at, because I don't think this is entirely the whole thing. I think this is only part of it. We'd actually have to pull the ordinance, which may not be on the website just yet. Have they been codified yet? Do you know? Not yet. Okay. We're hopefully getting to those, but we could pull, Sarah could send out what was approved. Can you do that, Sarah? And then we can look at
It's in
differences, because I think that,
Or looked at Renzi put together.
yeah, I thought so. But certainly open to any ideas on, changes, as long as we can legally do that. I do think that your fourth bullet about the ad hoc committees is very valid, because we did wonder about that. It's a little hard to look into things if you aren't able to get together to talk about them. So certainly that would be great if you could do that. And if you do that, then, Sarah can send out the,
Electronic files.
yeah, get those to Sarah. And then if Sarah, you can send out the ordinance. I'd like to sit down with them side by side, because I think this is only kind of like part of it, just because, yeah.
This is just, basically for the website.
Yep. Just to see what the big differences are, and then we can talk about that, because obviously that'll have to go to the board for any changes. As far as a master plan, I think maybe you're correct that as long as we just get something a little bit more comprehensive, then we'll be able to work from there. For sure. Why are you guys all looking at me like that?
I'm just listening.
Okay.
I mean, I think this looks pretty good, John.
Yeah. So yeah. That would be great. I'd like to do a side-by-side comparison and just take a look at it. Good job. One thing that we would have to figure out how to reword is this meeting day and time, and that I don't remember if that was in our original ordinance or not.
Right.
I don't think it follows.
We could put something like regularly scheduled meetings or something, but I know that we were trying to, for all of the different committees, as we update the ordinances, we're trying to take out the day and time on there, because it just doesn't give us enough flexibility, when things need to be changed.
And then for most of the other committees and commissions, I would say all, but I think all, except this one has the expiration of the term,
I agree.
and we
Yep.
should have that on there like right now.
Yep, we can do that. I believe that all of us expire in 27, because that's when all of our terms are up. But from what I remember when I looked the other day. Okay. Great.
So just to clarify, as it stands, you want me to send this to Sarah
Yep.
electronically?
Yep.
No other changes. And then
Yeah, I don't think right
by the
now.
next meeting, someone will have reviewed it, or?
Yeah, I think that, well, I don't know if it'll be technically by the next meeting. I'm gonna hope it is, because it's a month away. But yeah, if you can get that to her, then we can have that sent to the attorney just to make sure that it's legally good. And then after that review, we can sit down and talk about it before we put it to the village board
Okay.
for suggestion to change.
Can I ask a committee question? Are there any other issues or points that need to be emphasized or de-emphasized before it goes to Sarah?
If anybody thinks of anything, get it to Jeff, and then Jeff, if you can get it to Sarah, maybe within,
Yeah.
today's Tuesday, so maybe by Monday. That'll give everybody time to review it. And Sarah can get out the current ordinance, tomorrow. So that way everybody can kind of take a look and the compare. Does that
Sit
work?
down to her so she has it.
Yeah. Does that work for you? Do you think?
I'll get it up by tomorrow. Just.
Well,
For
I would
Sarah.
give that to Sarah. I didn't know if you wanted to wait for everyone to get the current ordinance and then have time to look it over to get any changes or suggestions to you.
Okay.
I don't see a whole lot there.
I don't know, but that's how we have to do it. Yeah. So I will make sure to review that and get you any thoughts. Because I have some other ones at home too that I've been reading through.
Yeah, you and I had exchanged them a long time ago.
Mhm.
If you-
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, we'll go on to 6.3, assign Pete Poley to work with village staff. Sorry, I have to just make and county representatives to review the current permitting process, develop an outline of the existing procedures and recommend improvements in responsibilities, procedures, communication, and efficiency. So Pete and I, along with staff, had met with the county when we had our talks on reviewing our contract for planning and zoning and inspections. It sounds like we will be able to work through that. I don't know if there's been any additional talks, no? Okay. I know we had a copy of that contract we were supposed to look over, get back to them. Do you know if Rumsey has looked at that at all?
Was sent to Ramsey. I haven't heard back from
All
him.
right. If somebody can follow up with him on that, just to get them something within the next couple weeks.
No.
No, we weren't, because it's draft, so it's not for, yeah. However, what did come out of that was that they are and have been discussing permit fees and plan on getting to that next year. And that kind of tied into our Pete's ask. And then there were several other issues that were brought up, and that included communication. Now, when we originally contracted with the county, it was done quickly because we needed to exit how we were doing it. And it was kind of muddy as far as who was responsible for what. So their ask, and we agreed that we need to be better on communicating the process and also whose responsibilities are, where the responsibilities lie. Do they lie with the village for certain things and with the county for other? And so, we gave them the assurance that we would work through that and that we would assign, because Pete had brought this up and wanted to make this one of, his asks, that he could lead that charge. Obviously, I think that any one of us could help you with that, and maybe all of us do help in some capacities. But we do need to review what is our existing current state. Meaning, what is the procedure? How do they get information? How do we give information? What's on our website? And then how should the process work? And that we need to work with the county because we need to learn how to work better together cohesively. So, and then recommend those improvements, and then also be able to communicate to our public how the process works, who's responsible for what the timelines are that they could consider normal turnaround times. Obviously, if some projects create longer, timelines due to the project itself. And I guess Pete, I'll let you talk if you have anything else you wanted to add that I
Yeah,
forgot.
I guess originally, and I guess what I'd asked for was more of a workshop. And I appreciate being made the point person, but in all honesty, I don't know the process, and I'll only
Yeah.
know what staff hands over from the review. That includes county staff as well. So I'm blind as the next person on exactly what it's all about. So I think instead of me working through that and showing up with staff with recommendations, I really do think that there's that important component of the workshop. So I apologize if I made it sound like I wanted it to be just me, but
No, we had talked about you and someone else, I thought.
right,
Yeah.
but I think a better concept is more heads that look at this with all the different experiences after having all the information to bounce off each other. So potentially like an EDC, here's an idea. take that information from county and from staff, the village, and then do a workshop here amongst the EDC members on different ideas on efficiencies, go through the process and then come up with something. So, as
And
I
think-
definitely would.
But I mean, like some of us or all, yes, of course.
Because
Some-
I'm not the be all end all in knowing,
Yeah.
you know, how we should apply those.
I think the starting point would be that right now we need to map out
How it's done.
current state, right?
Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
And which will need staff
And,
and
yeah.
county
Yep.
staff to do that.
Yep, so we could do that and kind of come up with an outline and then maybe identify where we're lacking in any communications. You know, certainly we need to have a brochure or something created to lay the process out with the information and then also include that on our website.
Including like, I think a big component that I'm hoping that we land at, one of the big ones would be, you know, expected timeline. If you're an applicant coming to the counter and, you know, what can you expect your timeline to look like to get to your permit stage once you've got
agree.
everything turned in?
I think the big takeaway is I have tremendous experience in permitting, is that the county has their way of doing things and Salem is going to have their way of doing things. And at the end of the day, if we're going to contract with Kenosha County, they need to live up to the standards that we think is going to be best for our community. And I think that's probably the approach that you want to take. They're going to have to make some, you know, changes and adapt to what's going to be in the best interests of Salem Lakes.
And I
Yeah.
think that they did agree to that. I think both sides need to make changes, obviously.
Yeah, so that'd
Um,
be great for this research and then the outcome, we can definitely focus in on that.
But we do need to work together to come, you know, through this. They want to provide the service and they actually want to do a good job for us. So we just need to figure out what the best way forward is on that. So,
I don't think it's that. Some things need to be tweaked, but I don't think it's gonna.
I don't think it'll be too bad. So, okay. So,
Yeah, I might say change in the notes that instead of assign Pete Poley or I might be a point person, but it's more into a workshop concept.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Jay, do you think we need to make a motion on this?
I think you assigned last time people to tasks out.
Yeah, we did make motions on that.
You did
so-
make motions, then maybe
But I think this will be, you know, more of an EDC project. However, we do need to come up with kind of an outline on how we want to start and where. So I guess in that aspect, I would like to have you be that point person, but we certainly could do that. But you could send an email to any one of us and say, can you reach out to the county for this information? Can you, you know, so. So with that, then I would like to assign Pete as the point person, to delegate the tasks
Sure.
for permitting. I need a second.
I'll second.
All right, great. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. All right. So Pete, if you want to just jot down some kind of notes on what you think and then start sending it out. So. Okay, 6.4, approve meeting minutes from October 7th, 2025. Any questions on them? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed?